What's up, everybody? This is Dan from Can You Take It Films, and welcome to the very first Can You Take It Podcast, episode 1. Today we're going to be doing a review, look back on the most recent Can You Take It festival we did, Friday the 13th. I've got joining me today Mr. Brandon Barentine, who's an official OG member of the Can You Take It crew, been with us on every one of the festivals. We've got Dustin D-Madge. He's joined us on Nightmare on Elm Street and the Friday the 13th festival. And we've got Adam, who has joined us on the most recent one, Friday the 13th. So how you guys doing today?
Pretty good.
I'm a Can You Take It virgin, so.
Well, you are a Can You Take It virgin, but maybe I think a good thing to talk about here in episode 1 is we've all been friends for a long time. We all go back at least 15 years. I've known all of you guys, so you may be first time Can You Take It, but you've been in the crew for a long time, so it's good to have you finally be a part of it. I'm still sort of pissed at Dustin because he continuously misses the festivals and hasn't done the hardest ones that
I've purposely skipped some of them. I was just like,
I think he should be kicked out of the group.
I think that's why Brandon wanted to redo Puppet Master
to make you watch it again.
Puppet Master is the ultimate of all the ones that we've done so far. It is definitely the most difficult.
I disagree. I felt Police Academy was harder. For me, Puppet Master had small bits of nudity, small bits of violence. You would get some cool stop motion animation. You would see some cool creature effects. To me, Police Academy was just, there was nothing redeeming about it. Let's take a quick second here to sort of revisit some of the festivals.
Well, if I can comment on the fact that I've only been part of one,
yes,
it seems from an impartial observer that the Police Academy would be the toughest, because at least with, B-horror, you can... There's always something to comment on, to laugh at, or to make entertaining. When something's trying to be intentionally funny and it just isn't, to sit through that, I can't imagine. So after hearing you guys talk about all these that you did over the years, and then I was thinking the Friday's going to be brutal the way you guys had hyped it up, and the fact that it was so easy concerns me.
Yeah, it was honestly probably the easiest next to Star Trek, which is the Lost Festival. The first festival we did was the Puppet Master. It was me, Brandon, and Patrick. There may have been somewhat of a camaraderie there because it was just the three of us, and the first time we ever did it, and we were kind of figuring out how we wanted to do it. I know it went till like midnight or after because we went and ate breakfast and we kind of lollygagged, and we really didn't play it smart scheduling wise.
Pillow fights. Yeah.
There were pillow fights and all that kind of slumber party fun.
Was this a film festival or a gay fuck festival?
A little bit of both. But yeah, we definitely look back on that fondly. Those movies are pretty bad, but there is something that draws me back. I'd seen them before we did the festival, and I've watched some of them since we did the festival. I know you have too, Brandon.
The problem is that Retro Puppet Master, the final film that we watched, is a piece of shit.
It's horrible.
It is so bad. And just like Adam was discussing, Police Academy movies trying to be funny, and they're not funny. Well, Retro Puppet Master is not scary. It's not a thriller. It's not fun. It's not funny. There's nothing redeeming about the film. And that's the end cap for the series. That was the end. And that was so bad. And it's a poorly made film.
It was the end of that box set. They've gone on to make more. There's about 4 more now.
What? Thank you, Charles Band.
Yes, Charles Band, never giving up the dream of puppets. The second festival we did saw the original 3 members and Dustin joining us on Nightmare on Elm Street. I particularly remember having a tough time with that one because I had seen them so many times, and something about the day, it just affected me. I didn't want to do it, and I had a little bit of struggle, but we picked up.
Well, I remember by the time we got to Freddy's Dead, I think we were dead pretty much.
It was bad.
pained. I do remember genuinely feeling like I am having a hard time watching this. Whereas, and this kind of goes to say something about the recent one, is that I think with Friday the 13th, the formula, the way it kind of repeats itself, it has to be a huge factor in why it just felt like we could just kind of go through them. And I don't know, with Puppet Master and some of the others, I don't know how they varied it. With Nightmare, it kind of varied a little bit. So
yeah. After that, we moved on to the Police Academy series, which we had definitely been building up. Patrick had purchased the box set, and we had two new members join us. I believe Logan and Steven were there with me, Patrick, and Brandon. And it was tough. It was. I can remember sitting on the couch and just leaning my head back, wanting to just shut my eyes and just be done. It was those movies, maybe taken on an individual basis, might not be the worst thing you've ever seen, but seeing them together, it was an absolute torture session. They're not funny. There wasn't even you can watch a horror movie and get some redeeming things. There's nothing redeeming about them.
is that why you think doing the Ernest movies would be so hard?
Yeah, I think anytime you have, just from me and Brandon have a long history of enjoyment of Mystery Science Theater 3000, so they're riffing these movies, and the hardest ones for them were always comedies. A bad comedy is almost unredeemable. There's almost nothing you can do about it. So the Police Academy series actually, I think, has the most views of any of our series on the YouTube channel. There are thousands of views on the Police Academy videos.
Well, that's alarming, because that says that the general population prefers Police Academy to Nightmare on Elm Street or Puppet Master.
Or I just don't, it's kind of like you were talking about the Porsche videos. I don't know that there's a lot of Police Academy content out there. So when people are Nightmare's got a ton of content.
That's true.
So, we kind of...
There's people really seeking out the Police Academy content.
When you were
YouTube.
looking for a movie that's got great sound effects created by one man, you go for Police Academy.
Well, and also
Michael Winslow, is that his name?
That's his name. Okay. Yeah.
When we did those videos, and I think Patrick edited those, that was like the first. We really stepped up the production on those, because Puppet Master looked terrible. We just kind of shot it handheld. We stuck the camera on the mantle of the fireplace sometimes, and we shot it with that little Sony HD cam I had, and then we stepped it up with the new camera in the next couple of filmings, and it looked better. The way we shot the interviews and everything, Police Academy was the best looking one to that point. Yeah,
it flowed better. But that's something I want to talk about after maybe we go through Friday the 13th, is the way we want to approach them in the review portions. And maybe we could get some feedback from our viewers on the the different ways that they want us to do that. But the next festival we did was the Star Trek Festival, and that was the original films, so Star Trek 1 through 6. Those films are pretty long, so that equaled out to about total running time of 7 horror movies, I believe. And we had, I believe, everyone joined us from Police Academy, including another friend of Patrick's. His name escapes me at the moment. But what happened was we shot it very similar to the Police Academy series. And there was a technical issue, and half of the footage was lost. So we decided to just kind of scrap it and not really try to do anything with it. But I can tell you what I took from it was I am now a pretty big Star Trek fan, where I was not before.
Before that?
I've always been aware of it, but watching them, I liked every single one of them. I had no issue. I mean, there's problems, but they're not that bad. And so then I bought the entire original series, and I've got almost all of Next Generation now, and have been watching that, really enjoying it. And so, definitely took something away from that festival that I don't think I had taken away from any of the others.
Probably wouldn't happen with Land Before Time, though, if we did one of those.
I doubt I'm going to be joining
a Littlefoot fan club.
But that brings us to the big gap. I believe it was 2.5 years, almost longer, in between those festivals, to where, probably longer than that, to where we get to Friday the 13th. And we just enjoyed them so much. It's a fun thing to do with the group of friends, and we kind of share them with YouTube and make reviews, but I think we also just enjoy doing it, so that's kind of why we came back to it. And it was really, really easy, surprisingly easy. And I don't know if that's because we're getting better at them.
I don't think it is. I think even that night, there were times where it was okay, because the hours are going to hurt, I think, every time. But we need to make sure the next one we do decide to do is the complete opposite. To think of the most painful one we could think of. But you don't ever know why. Some are more painful than others. Like, I'm sure would you have thought that Police Academy would have been that hard beforehand?
Maybe I wouldn't have thought it was as hard as it was, but I did not think it would be good. I don't feel those films are looked at fondly.
Right.
I have a wild theory about that. Maybe it's the setting. Because we always watched all those movies at my house before, and we transitioned to Adam's place for the most recent festival. And maybe it's the viewing angle of the TV. My house, the TV's jacked up over the mantle, and if you lay on the sofa, it's comfortable to watch, but it's also like 15 feet away or whatever. At Adam's house, it's cozy. The ceilings are lower. The TV is at a proper viewing angle. It's at a good distance. So maybe the setting has something to do with the endurance as well.
No, I agree.
I don't know. You did add a little gremlin recently, though, too, to entertain us. So
if we
that's a nice way to say Brandon has a child.
Yes, exactly. You got to babysit since we did.
Most caring way you can say it is to say that she's a gremlin.
Right.
You spawned a gremlin.
Just don't water her after midnight.
Well, the thing that I think really stuck out to me was how quickly we got done with it. Approaching 8 films in one day, I was, that's the most we'd ever done.
Here, I see him already ready to comment.
I know it to this day. Ever since we finished, that's the one thing I felt it then, and I know I could have done it. I wanted to keep going. I really wanted. I wish we had at least gone to 10.
You wanted to keep going because you were not going anywhere.
Well, no, I know, but
I'm
were
just
staying
saying at that house.
I know, and I understand at the time it was long. That's a long time period to do it, anyways. But I really feel like if we had gone to 10, it would have gotten to that delirious stage, and it would have probably been hilarious. It would have been more painful.
Well, I did go and watch 9 and some of 10. I didn't finish it after we got done, and man, it's so different, and I don't know that it's a good experience for anyone to have to see those 2 films.
Right.
But let's go ahead and get started talking about the franchise. I want to go through the films quickly. We're not going to spend a ton of time on them, but if there was anything maybe that you thought of that you want to say or talk about the first film, I know it's not my favorite one in the series, but looking back on it this time, I think I liked it a little bit more than I have in the past. And I don't know why that is, but what did you think about it?
I felt the same way. I don't know. I think probably one of the reasons, and this isn't a good enough reason, I think, to comment on the movie itself, but I was surprised how I don't think I remember watching the first movie on Blu-ray, period. Like, I remember that was a big part. Like, it felt like how clear it was. It felt like, you're watching a new movie or watching it all over again for the first time.
It did look good.
And the kills, that was another thing stuck in my mind, was how fast people died in that movie. I don't remember them getting killed off that quickly, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed, is that they do get killed off quickly, and the end drug more than I remembered it. It was very tedious. She was alone for a while, being chased, and it got tedious. I was kind of annoyed with it.
I like that movie a lot, and in retrospective, I think back about the 70s. You think about the 70s. That film came out in what year did that movie come out?
I believe 79.
79. So just at the end of the decade. But the 70s was really the decade for horror. The Exorcist and all the other great horror films that came out. And the 80s had great horror films too, but I think in the 80s it kind of tailed off. But that was the decade for horror. That was the gritty grindhouse horror. That's when horror happened. And I think as a thriller and as a horror film, it's not bad. It's not what we associate with the series. Right. We don't see the mask, we don't see Jason, but the twist at the end with the mom and Mrs. Voorhees, I think it's I enjoy it. I wouldn't go back and watch it again, but as a viewing experience, it's not bad.
Pre-franchising,
before the franchise, and it really captures that camp setting too, which I'm a big fan of camp set movies. So that's something fun about it for sure. What do you think, Adam?
Well, I think the whole day, to get back to the point of it being easy, I think the excitement that day was really up for me because there were so many firsts. It was my first Can You Take It? It was, hosted at my house. And we had Jonathan there who, it was his first Can You Take It? Mm-hmm. But also, he had never seen any of the Friday movies. So it was exciting to have someone there. It was a completely new experience to them. And that just made the whole day... It was just an exciting day from the get-go, and I had never seen any of the movies in Blu-ray format yet.
Right.
So you take away that they did a good job. Not all of them in the series, but that one was cleaned up well, and the setting's great. I love 70s and 80s horror when they make a setting like the camp setting, like you love the camp setting movies. It's because it feels like a real camp. They went to a real campground or whatever. There's, Beanie Weenie cans and that kind of shit.
Yeah.
It's not like a modern, a horror movie that would have been made in 2005. It would have been the most unrealistic camp ever. There would have been like, a roller rink and a DJ and...
Or it would have been shot in Eastern Europe.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
And
definitely.
Everyone's a supermodel, and that just gets tedious. It's like everything felt more authentic back then. It became more believable because the characters felt like real people and the setting felt like a real place you could go visit.
There was something about that film stock that just had a non-glossy look to it. It was very... the word gritty may be overused, and I don't remember it looking gritty, but it looked realistic.
Well, and everything in the 70s felt warm, and you have that whole earth tone vibe, and it carries over to the film stock. Everything has this kind of warm, brownish, earthy feel. Mm-hmm. And I don't know.
Yeah.
You immediately can recognize a 70s film.
Yeah, I think it's one of those rare cases where the first film is so very different from where we finally end up, and it sets itself apart in that way with no Jason. But that moves us on to part 2, where we have the first appearance of Jason. He's not got the hockey mask, and we've got a lot more kids. We got a lot more counselors. It looks like they said, okay, this movie was hugely popular. Let's up the count of kills. Let's up the gore that we show. And I love the second one. I've always enjoyed it, but I found this time that the gore was lacking. The effects were definitely not as good as the first one. You could tell Tom Savini wasn't there, and that kind of affected it for me because I've seen the things I like so many times. Now I'm looking for something different.
Right. Well, I know that, like, going back kind of some of what Adam was saying is, I think with the first 2 movies in particular, I think something else that happened before you kind of got into the full-blown franchising of horror movies, it felt like when they cast people too, it really did sometimes feel like you got actors there, but it felt like they could have just casted these people like locally almost, at least as far as the way they looked, their roles, the way they kind of carried themselves in the movie. Whereas by the time you get to something like 7 or 4 or whatever, it can still be good, but it felt more like, okay, you were specifically cast for this type of stereotypical character in this role or whatever. And the first 2 just felt more like these are real camp kids, and they just happen to be getting killed and everything. Because my dad talks about to this day the first one, the reactions of that first movie, not just from the gore perspective, but that was the thing. People his age, they did that kind of thing. They would go to camps, they would help kids out, and it was kind of a
they would help kids out
from hurting themselves on the campgrounds.
They would help the Mongoloids from drowning in the lake, and you would have no film.
Well, a lot of times they gathered around church events and stuff like that. So
yeah, when's the last time you heard of someone going to a camp?
Not very.
And not just a camp in general. No, I don't
only
mean like
church camp.
I don't. Yeah, and it not being church involved either.
No, only church camp. And my friend Chris grew up, and they went to church camp every summer, and I was always so jealous of them getting to go to camp. And it was a real camp with the cabins and everything. And he came back one year and he told me, he said, "Man, we were there and we were all sleeping one night, and we just heard this blood-curdling scream. One of the kids had rolled out of the bunk bed and smashed his teeth on the concrete floor and knocked all of his teeth out, like all of his front teeth out." And so that always stuck with me in my head, and I was like, that that is so scary. So a few years ago, my sister, she says to me, she says, we're taking the girls to church camp this year. And I said, you do not let your kids sleep on the top bunk. Do not do it. And she said, oh, okay, I won't. So her sister-in-law took them. And her sister-in-law has 2 twins. And so my niece slept on the bottom bunk and the 2 twins slept on the top, rolled off and knocked her front teeth out the same way. My sister called me and said, they had to rush her to the hospital. And she was like, you called it, It's just like, can they not put bars on the damn bunk beds?
Well, you said they heard a blood-curdling scream, but I imagine it was more like,
knocked all my teeth out.
But then God healed his mouth and his teeth were back in. Well, yeah,
hopefully they were baby teeth.
Well, I don't know. I think there was some permanent teeth. Chris was about 8 or 9.
Oh, okay, they were permanent.
Yeah, they were probably permanent. But yeah, I can remember. I'm not a reader. I don't read a lot of books, but I can remember reading a book about a camp and like some zombies at the camp, and it was a kids' teen horror book, and the camp setting just always been so interesting. Sleepaway Camp being a fun series if you guys have never seen those.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's a reason that was more fun. Not to spoil it for anybody. We won't spoil the movie.
I bet the insurance costs on a camp are unbelievable.
Yeah, I think back then they just didn't do it.
That's what the difference is. I bet that's exactly what it is litigation, lawsuits. I mean, technology becoming, kids are more interested in technology and not like going camping.
Well, everybody's so afraid to let your damn kid go anywhere without you being there.
Like the damn kid from Little Giants wrapped in bubble wrap and shit.
Yeah, there are very few places that people are just going to ship their kid off to for a month in the summer.
Do you think that's why they've been pondering this found footage idea? Because I imagine it's getting harder to really sell the idea of Friday the 13th as it's been.
That's true. I think to gather that many kids in one spot with little parental supervision is hard.
But see, to me, that's the best time to do it right now. Is to find a way to tell kids today with all their tablets and all their little can't stay focused on one thing.
Yeah.
And have Jason. It should be a true rooting for Jason to come in and just wipe out all these little teenagers and everything.
No one would notice their friends being killed. They would just see blood spatter on their tablet screen.
I think there was a real missed opportunity in having a crossover of Space Camp 2 and
Jason X2
Space
Camp.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, I think if you did do a found footage movie, it's gonna suck. It's gonna be bad. I would love to see Jason take on a juvenile delinquent work camp or something like that, where he's going to get a run for his money.
Perfect.
Challenge him. Give him some
troubled teens camp.
Teens camp, and you've got a couple of the kids who are really stupid, and a couple of them who can make some makeshift weapons and shank Jason.
Just do all
times.
the casting in Maury Povich's green room.
But the third one moves away from the camp, though. This is where we go to. To me, what would be the word? It's a zone of nothingness. There's no setting in the third one. I think they're on a farm, but you have no context for the farm really, and I dislike the third one.
The setting is third dimension.
That's what the third dimension.
Yeah.
The third one actually, it's funny you say that because it felt like after watching it, it's kind of closer to 9 and 10 to me. Even though I don't know, I just couldn't really get into it. I remember liking it more than I had, but
yeah, I like some of the kills in it. We all enjoyed the crotch slash. Remember where he comes down with the machete?
Yeah, that was great.
Brandon, I think, deemed it the goriest kill of the series.
Can you imagine that though?
A
knife or a machete slicing down through the pelvis, all through the intestines, the colon.
I think it's impossible.
Well, it's not just that. It looked like pretty hard too. It was so hard. He hit him so hard, it looked like he just jolted.
I'm sure that's been done before in the history of the world.
Oh yeah, somebody had a giant sword and just went down and hung somebody up and cut them in half.
But that's a lot of organic material there.
Yeah.
So
that was a brutal one. They would never have been able to do that later in the series.
No.
And they show, look like his guts and his rib cage almost hanging out. That was always the picture on the back of the cover. That was the only picture on the back of that VHS. So you had no idea. You thought, oh man, and the gore in this movie is going to be so good.
But they copied that in Sister Act 2 in that one.
Well, you have that next to, I'm going to squeeze your head so your eyeball pops out at the 3D camera. And it's the worst. It's such a stupid kill.
Yeah, and they didn't even try really to not say, "Hey, we're clearly going for a 3D shot." I remember, what was there, a broom or something?
They stick a broom in front of the camera, a bat, a chain. It's just so gimmicky.
Well, going back to your comment on that was the only capture on the back of the box, I really wonder how many of us, or how many just people listening, their fascination with horror came from going through Blockbuster and looking at the back of VHS boxes.
It fueled my imagination.
Because there's all these things you couldn't rent or you couldn't see because you're 6 or 7. You go get a Nintendo game and you go and see what's in the horror section. You're like, look at all these covers. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And it sticks with you. And then later on, you're like, oh, I can finally see these movies that I've only seen the covers of for years.
I would look at the back of the covers. I don't know. Growing up, my mom would go in clothing stores. Brandon probably can remember Cinemagic Video, and Holidays was a women's clothing store down the shopping center. And so I would go to Cinemagic and just look at the back and read the back. But also a big fuel for me was Fangoria, which they sold at Kroger when I was growing up, and I would sit on the floor while she shopped and just look at the pictures. And I can remember seeing some scenes from Jason Goes to Hell, and that was my first glimpse of that film. But I was never allowed to watch these movies. I caught them on TV a few times, and they scared me to death. But I was more scared that they were going to find out I was watching it.
Well, I'm glad that you were rebellious at a certain point for both of us, because if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have known. I think a horror movie.
I was so rebellious. I watched a rated R movie.
Rated R movie.
Edited for
Thank
television.
you for being strong for me.
I was strong,
Thank you.
For the both of us.
I walked probably 2 miles to Blockbuster and purchased Phantasm for $19.99 on VHS.
Hey, that's a hard
that
shit.
was a good way of starting it out.
I mean, that was one of the first VHSs I purchased that led to a collection of horror films, and then when DVD came out, it was just the heyday. Everything was coming out. I can remember every Tuesday going to Best Buy and buying so much shit, and then going to Adam's house and me and him just watching horror movies and skipping. We were in college at the time and just wouldn't go to class that day. Watch movies.
I know for a fact that, looking back on it now, you pretty much did introduce horror to me, that specific genre, because prior to that...
Let's get this straight. Anything you like in your life that's worth anything good, we introduced it to
Started
you.
from you, huh?
or me.
Before that,
Adam. Yeah, Adam too.
Before that, it was like Jurassic Park. That was the scariest thing that I was at least ever allowed to see. Now,
You saw Jaws, didn't you?
Yeah, but that was on TV, and it was, and even then, I don't remember really sitting down and watching it full on. Like I had, kind of like with Ghostbusters for you, it'd been the same thing.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you did, because I remember to this day, seeing Dawn of the Dead for the first time was a huge, because I had never experienced watching a horror movie where you really felt for the characters.
Right.
Like, for me, up until that point, horror was just shock value. It was just you're going to jump, whatever. But to see a movie where you actually, wow, I really like this movie. Mm-hmm. Like, this is really good. And then from then, it was always fun.
No, it was getting to discover things for the first time, not having them ruined for you. Like nowadays, the internet. I didn't have access to the internet like I do now. I mean, we had it, but I didn't get on there and just see the spoiler for every movie. So Dawn of the Dead, I had never heard of that movie ever. I just read on the back that it was a sequel to Night of the Living Dead, which I had gotten recently on VHS. So I bought Dawn of the Dead. And I was actually talking with my mom about this yesterday. I'm like, I walked into Walmart and bought Dawn of the Dead on VHS. It's not even rated R. It's not rated. It's that violent. And just bought it at probably 11 or 12, and it's so different now. Like, they're not going to sell that to a minor.
Yeah.
This is such a good commentary on like where our generation is versus the generation up and coming. That there were still secrets and surprises out there,
right,
that don't exist, and that shows you how powerful the horror genre is, because like I was talking about the box art, it's the only genre where consistently you say the name of a movie and I can picture the box art in my head. I can't do that with other film genres. And you mentioned Phantasm. That was the first movie you and I ever watched together.
Yep.
I don't remember the first movie I ever watched with Dustin or Chris or Brandon. It's a genre that sticks out with you.
Right.
And like you said, there's all these spoilers and things out there where you can ruin movies for yourself, or you can just so easily get them if you want to. You know, you can download them or whatever. And people, it's all out there now. And there's not that fear. Like you said, the double fear of a horror movie is the movie was scary when you're a kid, but the fear of your parents catching you watching these things you're not supposed to watch.
Exactly. The taboo effect of it as a kid.
Well, we live in the South. Yeah. So we're located in the Memphis area. So I think Brandon probably didn't have restrictions on you, did you? As far as you did, you were not allowed to watch horror movies.
Not really. My parents were very protective of us, like hearing swearing and seeing scary stuff. I mean, my mom would go on the weekends and rent a couple movies for us every weekend, and that's what we would do for entertainment. So it was The Explorers, it was The Goonies, it was kind of kids. Mm-hmm. Entertainment, and we never got to watch horror. When we would go into the to the supermarket and they had a rental section there, or go to the video store, and horror was right out. It was not allowed. So I didn't really see any horror until I got 17 or 18. I mean, not at all. So.
Okay.
Do you remember your first time you can think of, like, the first horror movie sticks out in your mind that you watched?
I saw The Exorcist pretty young. I think probably 16 or 17. That one really affected me, and still does today. I think that's probably one of the most effective horror films. But,
definitely.
Horror was really... And then when I got to be older, I just kind of went on a spree. I just started buying stuff. I was buying shock films and, like... top 10 most shocking films I could find, and say
you were
low.
always looking for like gore, and I remember one of the first times I ever hung out with you, you showed me a scene from Toxic Avenger where they run over that kid with the car, and you're like, watch this, and I remember just being like, oh, whoa, that's disgusting, and then probably in the back of my head being scared and not wanting to show it, because that would have been probably 14 when you showed me that.
Well, let's do some background on like where everybody started and what they were able to get into and when.
Sure.
Because I think there's a kind of a divide in the room. Dan and I were kind of somewhat unrestricted, or we
were restricted but didn't matter. I didn't care.
Yeah.
Early on, my dad introduced me to King Kong and the Universal horror films, The Mummy, and Dracula, and I had a real interest in sci-fi and horror kind of stuff. And the big moment for me was when my mom allowed me to rent Jaws, and I was in the 4th grade. It was rated PG. It's PG. Yeah. It's a PG movie. Yeah. So I rented it. I was scared to death. Okay, the beginning of that movie. Oh man, it just scared me. So I got obsessed. I'm always been sort of an obsessive person, but I got obsessed with it, not just with Jaws, but with sharks, great white sharks. A friend of mine had Jaws 2 taped off TV on VHS. He brought it to school so I could take it home and watch it. I watched it probably 2 or 3 times. That was the era which I was looking at Fangoria. I was looking at the back of them. And I can remember so many instances still today of Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5 would come on more than the others. And the first one came on. It was a Sunday afternoon. We got back from church, and I sat down, and here it is. It's coming on. I didn't know what to do. It was the luckiest day of my life if I hadn't have been too scared to finish watching it. I got so scared. I can remember Child's Play coming on one Saturday and being so scared I just went outside to play. That was maybe why they were so interesting to me, is because they scared me. And some of you may be laughing like, oh, he was scared of Child's Play. Oh, I was. I would lay in my bed and just imagine what was out there to get me, and was scared of these movies.
Well, I know I can relate, especially with what you mentioned about Jaws. I mean, to this day,
He's
you guys
so
know
scared.
you guys know how I am about sharks, but that scene where Quint dies falling in the boat into the I mean, I've said it a million times, it's his acting. That shark does not look real at all,
But you buy it.
but it doesn't matter, because in that situation I felt like that could be me right now.
Yeah.
And I could get and then even what you said about having to go outside, I mean, I remember watching Alien 1 for the first time, and that happened to me at that time. Like, I got so scared of that movie because you didn't hardly ever see the alien. It was the biggest buildup ever. And I think my mom said something like, come to eat for lunch or dinner or something, and I just used that as an excuse to just, okay, I can't watch this anymore right now.
My background with movies is kind of a mixed bag, because I was really unrestricted on what I could watch. They didn't really pay close attention, but my dad is like a huge, big action movie guy, and he's always like the cool dad, so we get along real well. But Terminator 2 comes out in theaters when I'm 6 years old. Hey, I'm gonna take you to this movie. Don't tell your mother, whatever you do. And I still remember the previews on television, thinking it just looked amazing. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited. And he took me to it. It was incredible. And as soon as I walk in the door, Mom, we just saw the coolest movie ever. and he checked me and a friend somehow out of school in
that'll fly nowadays.
Yeah, when we were like 9 to go see Die Hard with a Vengeance. He said we both had doctor's appointments somehow and got me and a friend out of school.
Wow.
He's like, yeah, your mom sent me, you have a doctor's appointment too. So we went and saw Die Hard with a Vengeance, but my dad never liked horror movies.
Yeah.
Really, unless there was like kind of an action crossover like Alien. Like, he loved the Alien series, even though the first one's way more of a sci-fi horror than an action at all. But he never really saw horror movies or was interested in the genre. My mom, on the other hand, loves horror movies, which you wouldn't expect at all, because we go see Lethal Weapon 3 in a theater and there's a sex scene. She's covering my eyes, reaching over.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah, Rene Russo, watch out.
Don't see that.
Yeah, but she was the one who went and saw horror movies with me. She took me to see Scream. She took me to see H2O, which was pretty bad, but it was cool at the time.
How dare you?
But I also have
Halloween Resurrection.
Well, I think another big thing is having an older sibling.
Yeah.
Because my sister is quite a bit older, and she would go, she's in high school when a lot of these movies are coming out. She went and saw Freddy's Dead in theaters, and I just remember she's we wore 3D glasses and all that stuff. I'm like, that sounds amazing. I can't wait till I'm old enough to watch this stuff.
Yeah, piece of shit. That movie sucks. My brother told me about seeing that too with the 3D glasses, and he broke down for me the first Friday the 13th. He would tell me what happened. He explained to me one time the plot of Puppet Master 2, and it sounded so amazing. And when I saw it, could you have been more disappointed?
And I wonder if that's why horror movies are kind of in their own little separate category as far as parental control, because the funny thing is nowadays it seems that nudity is the bigger deal than any type of violence. Kids it's fine to see someone beheaded or tortured, but a tit pops on the screen and they're ruined for life.
Yeah.
And horror movies tend to have quite a bit of nudity, but it's like, I wonder how many parents don't want their kids seeing horror movies, but they're fine with action or whatever. They're fine with the violence and the gore. I think they're just worried about their kids being afraid and not having to deal with that in the middle of the night. Their kids like, can I sleep in your bed? I don't think, maybe it's the irritation or the hassle of, oh God, they watch this, now they're going to be up all night.
He's going to get scared.
And that's bugging me.
Yeah. I definitely was scared, but I would keep it to myself. You never wanted to be like...
Yeah, internalize, then you have problems when you're older.
Well...
You avoided all that, though.
Well, I didn't internalize it. I took it out on other kids in the neighborhood. But that brings us to part 4, because we rented part 4. Me, Adam, and John rented part 4. We were in high school, early high school, and went to Blockbuster, rented it, and it's been probably my favorite one.
Had you never seen it?
Oh, no.
Really?
Never. I had never seen part 4.
Oh,
no. I had up at that point I had only seen 7, 8, and 6, maybe part 1 on TV. Never seen part 4.
To the listener, it's very rare to see a horror movie with Dan for the first time of him seeing it as well as you. It's usually his third or fourth and your
That's
first.
true. Like I thought that the other day when we watched the remake for what do you call it, the Evil Dead. I don't think I'd ever done that with you. It's been a long time.
Watched a movie I have
you
never
had not seen it at the same time.
Yeah.
Horror movie at least. That was
well, that was a garbage movie there. But part 4, I mean, we rented that, and it was so much fun. Just such a great movie. It encapsulates the franchise. You know, that's what a Friday the 13th movie.
Would you say that it's probably the best one?
I think it's the best one.
Yeah.
I think without a doubt it's the best movie in the series that has everything it's supposed to have. It's got great looking girls, great looking gore, Savini back, great looking Jason. We've got a good set. You know where you are. Then throw in Corey Feldman. Yeah. Then throw in what's his name? Goofball.
Yeah, freaking. What is his name? Crap.
Crispin Glover.
Right.
Yes, and you've just got. There's not another one that has those kind of. There's no other Friday the 13th that you're like, oh yeah, that person went on to do this, this, and this. No.
Yeah, his dance moves were worth watching the movie alone.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
But yeah, I love part 4. I think we talked about it a lot. I remember Jonathan during the marathon was like, best one so far. He still said it was the best one. I think for anybody, you're like, okay, let me sum the series up for you. This is the height of it. So we won't spend a lot of time on part 4, but I do love to talk about part 5 because it is so. I love it, and I'll just give you a little history about it. That I haven't always loved it. When the first time I saw it, I was a little bit turned off by the fact that that it's not really Jason, and
Same here.
The characters are a little weird. But after watching it again and spending many hours listening to another podcast called Dead Pit with CK and Uncle Bill, they're huge fans of part 5. And they really convinced me to go back and give it another try and look at it from a different angle. And it really took on a whole new life. It's so different than the other movies. It's just so weird.
Would you say it kind of reminds you of like how Halloween 3 is kind of?
Yeah. It's a departure from the way the other. And it's kind of, you got the kids, the troubled kids.
Yeah.
And so it's almost. Well, it was directed by Danny Steinman, and Steinman did Savage Streets. And I think we've all seen. Have you seen Savage Streets, Adam?
No.
So I know Brandon and Dustin have seen it, and it's just it's such a sleazy kind of exploitation film. And so you take this guy and you let him do a Friday movie, and think about it. There's the drug use in it, the dude doing cocaine. People just get killed, whether they're good, bad, or in between. It doesn't matter. Almost all the females are nude. Even the main girl, who's the older sort of parental woman, has to run around in a white shirt in the rain with no bra on. It's just... Whoa, Debbie Sue Voorhees too. I mean, the greatest nudity of all the Friday franchises in part 5. That's for sure. If you want to debate it, you can, but you're wrong. But Jason is really kind of weak in it. Like, he's just not that cool. It's really the other stuff. I think that's why it's very different. Because generally you're like, oh, Jason's badass. That's why I love part 7. He's badass. This one's kind of badass because it's like, you got Reggie, you got Reggie's grandpa, you got Reggie's brother. You've got all these characters that are so weird and different and memorable. Junior and Ethel. And people hate them. They absolutely hate them. And I think going back and looking at it, sort of being like, let me give this another try. I love it. I love part 5.
Yeah.
Those characters were actually the strongest characters of any of the films, I think. The secondary characters were. I mean, they had more. They're more memorable than any of the other films.
Yeah. There's not, the kill is not the only thing you remember about the characters in part 5. You remember stupid shit they say, or the one girl dancing in a room, with the like, goth makeup on, and the other kids stuttering. It's just, they all have stereotypical kind of symptoms, but they all have problems, you know.
It is true in that way, I guess. What you could sort of say this about Jason Goes to Hell because it's sort of a different angle.
It's a piece of shit.
Yeah, right. No, but
like
1 in 5, like they don't just flat out focus on just the kill count. It's just not. It's not as big of a deal, so it stands out a little bit more. Whereas the other ones are kind of they're fun, but they're so formulaic.
Yeah, part 6 to me is immediately where you get into okay, here's some kills that got added in after we shot the damn movie. The producers want to have some more kills, so put them in, even though they have nothing to do with our characters or story.
Well, the reason Part 5's characters are evidence for me that the characters and what they're up to matter more than Jason in that movie, to reinforce your point. The thing that I remember the most when I think about Part 5 is that damn bowl of soup they're making. That big ass pot of soup that looks like the most shitty thing in the world, just leaves
the best slop, Mom.
Yeah, that's the first thing I think of when I think of Part 5 is that damn big ass pot of soup.
And she gets machete
and him riding his damn dirt bike or 4-wheeler or whatever. God.
Yeah,
and the way the guy dies at the beginning so randomly.
Chocolate face?
Chocolate bar.
Yeah.
He gets whooped.
That was appropriate. He was annoying as crap.
Yeah, annoying people should die quickly in movies.
Well, I think that gives you something to root for. Think about how many annoying characters have been in movies that then when they die, it's like so rewarding.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think. Moving on to Part 6.
Ooh.
Yeah, I really don't like Part 6. I've never really liked it. The thing that I think I noticed this time about it was it is shot well. It's kind of really moody and I know he was a big Universal fan, the director. So it has like the lightning and the cloudy and the atmosphere is really great. It's just the jokes don't really work for me, and it's not that I don't want jokes in there. It's just that they don't work for me. And
so much filler and tacked on material. You can just tell. It's not even a Jason movie for half of it. It's just like it feels like you're taking little excerpts from just lame 80s films and throwing them in, and then Jason shows up in the middle of someone else's movie.
And he doesn't even look that cool. He looks like a damn yard worker, and his gloves are so clean looking, and I just have a problem with the way he's not the monster.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. That's the only thing I will say about the movie is that at the beginning, what you said about how the director sort of clearly wanted to have this sort of, at least look-wise, this old-school monster movie kind of feel. And it's kind of somewhat appropriate considering what they go with after this, because that's really the birth of zombie Jason, like from that point on, because he really died in 4. Like, I mean, they only brought him back. And so maybe that's the only redeeming value for me, is just you kind of get, but that only is in retrospect. I think when you get to 7 and all that, you see it that way. But 6 in itself, yeah, I have to agree. It's not really, especially watching it again, it wasn't that good.
I think the most memorable kill for everybody in the reviews was the Winnebago head smash. And then the flip, the Winnebago flip.
Yeah, that was good. That was
a good, cool effect for sure. But everything else just kind of not that great.
There's redeeming parts. I mean, refresh my memory. Is this the one with like the sheriff dad?
Sheriff dad and the girl. That's basically
and the only return lead for 2 movies, right? Isn't the guy the same?
Nope, he's a different actor. This is actually
different actor, but is it the same character?
It's the 3rd time. It's Tommy Jarvis from Part 4, grown up. Mm-hmm. So this is the end of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy.
That should be its own box set.
It should be its own box set.
Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah,
I wish they'd bring him
commentary
back.
by Corey Feldman on all the movies, even though he was only in the 4th one.
Didn't you say that Corey Feldman wanted them to make because with his character?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure Corey Feldman wants anyone to make anything
that's more
with
to pay
him.
his bills and not because he's
Could
a big...
he not? Like Corey Feldman is one of those guys where like the best movies of the 80s somehow have fucking Corey Feldman in them.
And he got to hang out with Michael Jackson. I mean, he was on top of the world.
He was everywhere, and he.
What are his biggest ones he did?
The biggest
Lost
movies?
Boys.
Oh well, Gremlins.
Yeah,
Goonies. Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Lost Boys.
Turtles.
He
Technically,
did the voice in Turtles. He was in the Burbs.
and he used to throw the turtles.
Turtles.
He did a lot of different stuff, and they were really huge. But I heard recently on Dead Pit that him and Sean Astin were at a convention, and there were so many people there that they decided to up their price for autograph and picture to $150, I think, each. For each of them, when the normal price was going to be like $50 or something like that, and they were like, "No, we're just going to up our price and make everybody pay." And when you hear that kind of stuff, it just number one, who the hell would want to pay for a Corey Feldman autograph? Who gives a shit?
Well, in 2014, not in...
This was in 2014.
Right, that's what I mean. Who would want to pay for it in 2014?
Yeah.
Maybe in 1988.
Right, yeah. So just fuck that guy.
Yeah.
He gave us a lot of memorable things, but reduced to nothing. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
What'd he have to do with any of it?
Yeah.
You know? But moving on, Part 7.
Yeah.
Such a jam.
It is. I mean, it's to me, 7 is like the Rocky 4 of the Jason movies. It's a montage of whoopage. That's all it is. I mean, and plus it kind of breaks the rules a little bit. I think what I liked about 7 is what I've always told you about what I like from Nightmare on Elm Street is that they clearly knew from creating zombie Jason, especially with the makeup, with Kane Hodder, all the stuff they did, they knew that who in the world is going to stand toe-to-toe with him? I mean,
Right.
He was like a Terminator in that movie. And so to have this girl in such high contrast, I think that was one of the most appealing things about it, in spite of the terrible dad return at the end of the
so
movie.
bad.
It's the only thing that kills that
But
movie.
how
And
bad?
it's a slow start, but
Yeah.
I just forgive all of that because the last 20 minutes.
Oh my God.
To me,
ass.
the slow start, though,
is what builds up to
it builds up and it's got a great atmosphere. And Lar Par Lincoln, the girl, is just such an interesting looking lead. And her character is so interesting. She's got problems, she's got issues, and just the atmosphere of the movie. I'll tell you another thing, if you really think about it. Think about the music in Part 7. It is not the score that we had been used
It's not
to.
a bunch of violins and horns.
Which I'm sorry, I just don't love. I appreciate it, but I don't love that music.
Could have been better.
I don't know that it could have been
no,
better.
it's just so ubiquitous.
It's just
everywhere.
used in all of them, and so then when you get to Part 7, you've got this synthesizer score, and maybe
Synthesized horror always wins
to me it's
for
the best, and I love the music. And when I was editing the review for Part 7, I found the score and was listening to it and just been like, had a hard time picking out the part I wanted to use because it was so good. I mean, it's just a creepy synth score, and the makeup looks great.
Oh man.
But how awesome is that house explosion?
All right.
The top 3 movie explosions ever. That Die Hard, where he throws the C4 down the elevator shaft.
The good and the bad and the ugly when they blow up the bridge.
Blow up
Right.
the bridge. Bridge over the River Kwai, they blow up the bridge, and that is
Super
massive.
cop.
Now, I got one for you.
Super. I'm not
Super
kidding.
cop.
I'm not kidding. There's
Here
a
we
part
go.
where Jackie Chan's
Dustin.
on a hill and this hut just explodes, and I can't imagine the explosion.
Why am I not surprised that an
I'm
hour
going-
into
Jackie
our
Chan.
first
I got your Jackie Chan
podcast,
archive.
we have
Jackie
Turtles
Chan.
and Jackie Chan already
Oh,
mentioned.
big surprise those were mentioned. But we're going to do a little segment here once we talk about Part 8, but I will tell you all about a movie that has a comparable explosions to Part 7 that you guys really need to watch. But let's go ahead and talk about Part 8. This is the one I felt we didn't talk about enough. We really were so whooped from the festival that we didn't give it the appropriate time to really just talk about the movie, because honestly, Part 8 has a lot of fans, and I can see why, but I don't love it.
I don't love it, but I definitely do not hate it either. I think it's a movie that's right there in the middle. I feel like it's kind of, if you get frustrated with it, it's because it has elements in it that are cool, they're fun, but you get frustrated because, number one, they're on the boat for so long.
And he looks like shit.
Yeah, especially when the mask comes off at the end.
Oh,
Oh
it's
my
so bad.
God. It looks terrible.
I forgot about
It
it.
looks,
looks
so
so
bad.
bad. Oh, man,
just
so
white.
I tend to
face.
block things that don't please me.
Yeah, well,
Brandon, I want to know your opinion of that movie more than anybody.
do you even remember it? Because you were ready to go.
Yeah, you were
Well,
done.
yeah, I was not feeling well when we watched that film, and I had pressures at home, and also I'd been sitting on the fireplace hearth.
I wonder why. Because Dustin sat in the recliner for 4 fucking movies.
Well, let me make a point here that so the listener is not confused, Dustin was talking the whole day and even mentioned today how he was ready to do part 9 and 10. He's ready to go. I distinctly remember in 3 and maybe part 4 him nodding off in the recliner.
He did. He covered up
in a blanket, cocooned there.
He
and
said,
I'm like, yeah, we're going to get through 9 and 10.
Well, I think I sat in the recliner on part 1 or 2, and we said, hey, well, everybody just take turns. There was a couch and a recliner, and then there were kind of chairs that would go around a dinner table that weren't uncomfortable.
Right.
And then there was a fireplace.
And Brandon was on the hearth for like 4 movies. I'm like,
He
sit on the
chose
couch, Brandon.
to sit on the damn fireplace.
I don't
because
feel...
we said, come get on the couch, come get in the recliner, and Brandon was like, I'm okay.
Yeah, I don't feel too bad about it because I do remember offering it.
I was hoping to like reserve like this comfortable seating for the end of the festival, and by the time the end of the festival had come around, my butt hurt so much I was just in a bad mood. I'm sorry. I was
that really what got you?
No.
Well, number one, you had your contacts in.
My contacts
which
were
is not a good
my
idea.
contacts the whole time. I probably drank a little bit too much during the middle of the day,
Coming down off of that.
drinking rum, so that probably wasn't good. And I had some pressures at home. I think my wife was not too happy about me spending all day there. But my thoughts on the film.
Get over it.
Yeah. Well, my thoughts on the film are basically that it's probably mid-range somewhere. The boat is kind of interesting to me. I'm kind of interested in that boat. Who builds a micro cruise ship and rides it around like on Lake Erie or whatever?
It was such
like
a,
the
not
Hudson
even
Bay.
like a cruise ship. It was
But it had
a normal boat.
It had a disco in it.
Yeah.
So I don't understand that. I mean,
it wasn't a creepy, like, derelict boat atmosphere where it's like we're out in the middle of nowhere. It's like you felt like it was just a party boat, like right offshore. Like we can just dock up
It was
anytime we're
huge.
ready. But it was huge. It was like a huge yacht.
it would
Or like
probably be fun to travel on. But
Yeah.
who on a high school graduation goes on a boat with a disco in it? I don't.
Nobody.
Nobody. And I don't like Jason's transition at the end of the film.
Yeah.
To the little kid.
Yeah.
That looked like crap.
He looks like that little kid in Nightmare on Elm Street. I want to be. I want Freddy.
I want to be like you.
Yeah, he looks
how
like that kid.
is the
That kid's
worst.
in Jurassic Park too.
He's in.
He's really different looking.
No, wait, never mind.
But I think it's kind of middle of the road. It's not too terrible.
Yeah, it's one of those that I saw on USA. They showed it all the time, so I saw it before, before any of the others, and I remember thinking it was cool, then. So I kind of always am like, well, what would I show my daughter and not be too worried about her seeing something that could be really violent? And that one is like, it's not that
But
violent.
from a kid's perspective, they'd be terrified.
Oh, if you put that on right now, I put Snow White on the other day, and we saw this witch at the home goods store, like where you can buy housing stuff, and they had a full-size Snow White witch for Halloween to put outside your house, and she was animatronic. Dustin would have been afraid of her, and she was. She moved and talked and held the apple out, and Veronica was petrified of this.
It's freaky.
So we go home, and I'm like, I have the movie with the witch in it, and so we put it on, and she would make me skip the scenes that got too scary, and the whole time she was sitting there, she goes, I hope this isn't too scary. I hope this movie isn't too scary.
You're just like, yep, here, permanent damage right here.
When we were at the store, they had this rat, like a fuzzy rat that you would decorate outside the house, like a creepy looking rat. And I said, hey, come here, you want to touch the rat? You want to pet this rat? She came over and put her hand out. She screamed, and my wife was so mad at me. It's like, I can't help it. I grew up in a household where I have an older sister and older brother. Their joy in life was to scare you.
Yeah.
My brother would hide in the closet and take a coat hanger and scrape it across the metal bar in there like it was Freddy Krueger was in there, and he would just bust out. He hid under my bed and would grab my feet when I would go to sit down. He was just always, and my sister too. There were times where she jumped out and scared him. He punched her in the stomach so hard she had to go to sleep. She had to just lay in the bed for the rest of the day. He hurt her so bad.
My
Then
liver is bleeding.
he jumped out and scared her one time, and she hit him with the shoe in the face and hurt him. So
Is that where you got the "can you take it" rule for throwing a shoe at someone's face?
yes. If you fall asleep, you get a shoe tossed. So it's no surprise that I will be scaring my child.
Well, that's part of the reason of having kids, I think, is to, mess with them and get little pleasures of
Right.
not only watching them experience things for the first time, but watching, their fears and, just having jokes with them.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, Part 8.
I think one of the other things about 8, though, real quick, is you say that, the kills were, they kind of were okay, but I don't know. The one on the rooftop punching the guy's head off. Just the camera shot, the idea of putting it from the toss.
It rolls into the garbage.
Down was pretty hilarious. But the one thing that's frustrating about that movie, and you go back and you watch the trailer for it, and it really does. You see that classic shot of him in New York. You see all the advertisements, and it makes you think about how many classic 80s movies were just in that kind of environment. Ghostbusters, Turtles Again, Die Hard. Like, there's so...
Die Hard was in LA.
But, they always had a major
Nakatomi
city.
Plaza was next to the World Trade Center tower.
Well, that's not a good example. But point being is that you can almost tell that that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
And they just... budget, or I don't know.
Oh, budget. Total budget.
Yeah.
But I think looking back on Part 8, got lots of flaws, but... I still think all the movies are watchable. I think you wouldn't go wrong giving them a go, especially around this time of year, Halloween times, when they would always show them. I mean, I would get so geared up for this time of year, if anything, for just all the horror movies that would come on TV, because if I wasn't going to be allowed to rent them, I sure could try to stay up and watch them. And they were edited, of course, but I taped Halloween 2 off of Joe Bob Briggs' Monster Vision and watched the shit out of that tape.
The rooftop boxing match, to get back to that, I think that was even more impressive from the stance that the guy involved in the boxing match also had jumped off the boat and should have been dead.
He should have been, but he lived.
But somehow he managed to swim to shore.
Oh, he got in the boat with them. So somehow he managed to keep up with the cruise
afloat.
ship as it moved along.
Yeah, so I understand why he was tired out for his boxing match.
But okay, Friday the 13th, 1 through 8. It's a great series, great franchise. I'd recommend it. It's a must.
Maybe not all back to back to back. But.
Maybe not all in one day, but it's a series. Here's the crazy thing, and I told Jonathan this, and he laughed at me. The 2 days after we shot the festival, I was getting ready for bed, got into bed, usually watch TV or something. Friday 13th part 2 was on, and I watched it. I left it on. I watched it. Yeah. And it's definitely a series that I'm not going to ever have any trouble going back to watch. I love them, So let's get to the next segment. I want to talk about something maybe that you guys have watched or seen recently, a pick, DVD, Blu-ray pick, or a movie you watch on Netflix or something like that, that we could just talk about. What have you seen recently, Dustin?
Actually, Noah, I watched.
Oh, really?
Recently, yeah. And honestly, even though you're raised in church and you've read the Bible, well, at least parts of it, never read the whole thing. It's one of those things where you watch the movie, and I mean, anybody there's a lot of people you hear about getting clearly butthurt over the changes and the stuff that go on. But to me, that whether they're no matter what they change, that probably made it more interesting because there's only so much you're gonna have to be creative with it. You're putting all these damn animals on a single boat, and Noah and his family built the boat. Come on, it's there's things like that.
What? You don't believe it?
Well,
you don't believe that it happened?
No. They put all the birdies to sleep and got them to come in there.
Is that what they did in the movie? They
they have some smoke, and they fly in there, and then they get them to go to sleep.
Cheech and Chong come out. And
put the birds blazing up. They're blazing up.
The ark was built in Mexico and filled with Bud Lee.
And they had these things called the Watchers that helped him build the boat and protect his family. There was a lot of cool things because I've always said it. Whether you are a Christian or you're an atheist or you've read the Bible or you're not, the Bible is freaking crazy in terms of its stories. As far as just putting them on film. I remember I had a moment in the movie thought, if you didn't tell me this was anything related to anything religious or whatever, this is like another fantasy movie. That's the way I kind of looked at it.
Was it cool? Was it a good movie?
It was cool enough to watch for the first time, but not enough to where I felt like,
you didn't
my
love
God.
it.
No, not at all.
Okay.
It was very cool visually. I will say that. There was a lot of shots that he had where like he was under the coolest shot of the whole movie to me was him in a dream state, and he looks at his feet and there's blood on the ground, and all of a sudden he's in water, and then you see something that looks like seaweed, and all of a sudden you see it's all these dead bodies of all the people. So there's a lot of those kind of things, but the movie was really long too.
But is that not going on way too much nowadays?
Yeah.
I do not have a problem with a long
Transformers
movie.
3 was 3 hours.
There's no need. It's like they figured out that people will come and watch it, and almost maybe they think we get more excited when it's long, and I think Lord of the Rings is to blame for this.
Yes.
And so they think, well, we're going to give them because they're watching Netflix, they're watching stuff on TV. Let's give them longer movies to get them into the theater. And I don't mind a long movie when the story's there, but you cannot tell me Transformers 3 needs to be that long.
That was...
Especially when you don't care about the story or the characters.
Yeah. Right.
I never saw the movie. I'm just assuming.
I felt that The Dark Knight Returns was too long.
Yeah.
The end of that should have been cleaned up.
Yeah.
It was
The second one?
No, The Dark Knight Returns.
The second one.
The second one's called The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight Rises?
Oh, Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, but I know you're talking about. Yeah, it was
The Revenge
too
of the
long. It was too
Joker.
long.
Revenge of Penguin. Yeah,
I remember feeling the same way. It's almost like you could have kept all the content.
And the new one looks really good, Interstellar, but it's going to be his longest movie yet. It's going to be really long. But
that looks like it's justified from having to build.
It looks like a big story, yeah.
Yeah, a lot to take.
Well,
in.
I will say that in theater wise, that was. Even though I've seen a few movies, Transformers, that was painful to get through.
Well, why the hell did you go?
Well, for me, it was more
Family.
like just the visuals. I just wanted to see what they look like. And, that's what's
they
crazy.
Look like the other ones?
Actually, what's funny is the other movies, like the second one still to this day is the worst one. It's like one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
That could be a Can You Take It festival
I've
itself
said
because
it. Yes.
I've only seen the first one, and I care nothing about seeing the other ones. It would be in there so long.
We could go watch them in 3D at Eddie's house.
Oh, man.
Well, you get fatigued.
Please.
Like, it really did. I remember it took only 30 minutes into the movie. Me and my
hear
dad,
Mark Wahlberg say, "We got a transformer here.
Yes.
This is a transformer."
Well, me and my dad, it's kind of like when you talk about your dad sometimes, it's kind of like he will
You saw
like
it with
a
your
lot of
dad?
different movies. Yeah. And like for your dad to go out of his way to say this movie's shit, and everything. Like
my dad gives everything a chance.
Well, my dad is kind of the same way in some
My
ways,
dad would
and he
never
was
see
looking
that.
at me like, "What is going on in this movie? Like, this is stupid." And he even after the theater, my dad was like, "What is Mark Wahlberg thinking? Like putting himself in a movie
Mark
like
Wahlberg, that
Yeah,
great
What was
actor.
Wahlberg thinking? They got paid $15 million.
What's Mark Wahlberg thinking? He's done all those great movies. He's such a great actor, like Planet of the Apes. And
Well, it's kind of crazy.
The
because
Happening.
I've heard people complain about the first few movies about why are we? Remember you even saying this the first movie, like why we have talking badass Transformers, these robots running around, and yet what are we doing? We're spending time with all these human characters that are shooting each other.
That's not what I. Well,
Remember, like, the
what
first
I said about the first. This is the reason I've never seen any of the other Transformers movies. 2 reasons. Well, 3 reasons. I hate Michael Bay and anything he touches.
Yes.
Because he doesn't understand the difference between a storyline and special effects. And yeah, what I said is it's not enough. You have giant robots fighting each other, but that's not enough. You also have to have them fighting in the middle of a city, and the army's involved, and people are fighting, and it's just there's too much, and you don't care about any of it. It's just eye candy. And then the love scene. His idea of a love scene is in the middle of shrapnel and debris flying around people's faces.
Slow-mo.
2 people slow-mo kiss each other in like the rubble. And the other thing that I had a problem with, I guess the character was supposed to be Soundwave. I don't know. It was a little Decepticon boombox character.
It's me, Soundwave.
I wish. I would have liked it if he had that voice, the Soundwave's voice.
I did all the
it's
voices for the Transformers.
It was one of those, shitty you buy at Walmart boomboxes that
Yeah, it was a
it was
talk
like the
boy.
comic relief, and so it would like be falling around and zipping around and bumping into stuff. It's like, oh, that Decepticon, it's a silly Transformer, but then it killed people. You can't have the comic relief murder people. It doesn't work.
Obviously, you've never seen James Bond movies. He's always joking after he murders someone.
Well, what's crazy is that I've heard people complain about that. there's enough action or something. I have never felt like I need to have metal and bullets stop coming at my face so much in the fourth movie.
Stupid.
It went on forever. We thought it was like Return of the King. I love that movie, it had like 3 endings.
Oh, it wouldn't.
And like
Adam fell asleep in it.
That's the same with
Brandon
Transformers.
watched all of them, and that was your original Can You Take It festival.
Right?
Yeah, the Malco Theater here in Memphis did a screening of when the Return of the King premiered. It was the night of the premiere. They had a midnight premiere of it. But beforehand, you could watch the extended editions in the theater of the first 2 films back to back.
Good Lord.
It was awesome. I took a day off of classes and went. And it was really cool because you could hold your seat. They would hold your seat, so you got to sit in the same seat, and people were... I didn't really care for the costumes, but people dressed up. And he had like some Gandalf with the cotton balls glued onto his face or something.
You should have showed up to episode 1.
He's got popcorn stuck in his cotton ball beard.
But that was the original Can You Take It? It started at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and there was like a 45-minute to an hour break between each film, so you could go out and...
So instead of the little ticket saying, or when they say no passes to the movie, it has a sign, was Gandalf saying, you shall not pass?
Well, what's going to happen when this December, when the 3rd movie comes out and they post all 6, I'll watch all 6 movies.
No, you couldn't do that.
I would watch the first 3 and then go home.
I don't think you could. How long would that be if it was just not even the extended cuts? How
24
long?
hours.
Because
if it was extended cuts, it'd be 24 hours.
Last
Yeah.
one you said was
It
pretty
would.
short, right?
If you're watching 6 movies that are 4 hours
here's the
apiece.
thing about the second Hobbit film. Didn't you say they're adding 40 minutes back?
40
in?
minutes of time.
So
to
it was
Wow.
the shortest in the theater, but the extended edition.
I see.
The extended edition of the
Make it
first one
normal.
only added 18
Yeah,
minutes.
it's a short amount.
This is going to add 40 minutes in, and we'll see. I didn't hate that second one.
No, that's long.
I haven't seen the extended editions of any of the Hobbit movies.
Yeah, the second one's not out yet.
What about you, Adam?
What's a recent?
Movie.
Well, I'm not much of a theater goer. I mainly watch everything at home. But my girlfriend and I went and saw Gone Girl this past weekend.
Oh wow, okay.
It's been getting rave reviews all over the place. Really highly regarded. I didn't realize. Like I went into it completely cold.
Oh,
I
it's
knew it was
supposed to be
based on a novel. I had no idea David Fincher did it. I had no idea that Trent Reznor did the score. All I knew was Ben Affleck was in it, and that's it. And I knew it was going to be long. It's like 2 hours, 20 minutes, something like that. It held my attention the whole time, and there were some good, twists. But it felt like to me there were some holes, and there's no way to review this movie without completely spoiling it, so I'm not going to go in an in-depth review. But all the characters the actors do a very good job. The female lead, I don't know the actress's name, but she did an excellent job of convincing you either that she's wonderful or crazy, depending on the circumstances. But it's worth seeing. I don't know if I'd see it again, and I don't know if I like it as much as everyone's hyping it out to be. There seem to be some holes in there towards the end of the movie when something happens and there's a plot twist, and it seems like...
Sounds like Dan's kind of movie.
Well, I hate a plot.
No, it's not like
Not a plot.
It's not
I don't mind a plot twist.
It's not a
but,
Shyamalan
twist.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a twist as much as like the way she had everything planned out of how she wanted to go. A wrench gets thrown in it, and she has to alter her plan. And when she alters her plan, and it seems like she shouldn't have been able to do it the way she did it without it unraveling. But somehow the movie just glosses over and is like, yeah, there's no holes to pick in that. She did it perfectly, and I was just questioning it the whole time.
How did Tyler Perry do for you?
I don't think I've ever seen a Tyler Perry movie.
Me either.
But I know his reputation as Medea and all the Medea films or whatever. He's a very good actor. He did a fine job. I mean, there's no complaints at all. He played kind of the, power attorney role, defense attorney very well. And I think it just comes down to anybody that's going to get screen time in a kind of a big blockbuster movie is going to be a good actor, whether you think so or not. Usually, it's just have they been given the right material to work with.
Right.
And I mean, of course, people play silly roles, like people can laugh at Medea or whatever, but most of the time you see someone, it happens with several performers where you think they're typecast or they've played this character for so long and they can't possibly be a legitimate actor or do a good job, and then they wind up doing a great job.
Yeah.
I think Matthew McConaughey had that going for him
agree.
for a while.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely shocked me with that. Brandon, anything recent?
Well, kind of transitioning from Matthew McConaughey, I'm in a position in my life right now where I don't have the time to watch a lot of movies, and my wife and I don't get to go to the movie theater anymore because of we have a daughter that's a year and a half years old. So I haven't really seen a lot recently. I've watched about half of Mud. And the half I've seen is really good. It's kind of it's shot near here. I believe it was shot in Arkansas.
Yeah, that director, he's from Arkansas.
Yeah, so it's kind of got like a feel like growing up as a kid in the South, and I didn't really live that kind of lifestyle that the kids in this movie live, but it's familiar, so I like it. But I'll probably finish it this afternoon. I did buy the Coppola restoration Godfather Blu-rays, and I had never seen those before the Blu-rays, and the Godfather Part 2 looked really good, and I love those movies, the first two, but the first one, and I don't know if it's always been like this, but it looked really, really soft.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not very clear, and even on the Blu-ray it was soft, and I don't know if that was an intentional decision when the film stock they used or the way they shot it, but woo, that's a grainy looking movie for that.
Got a lot of grain in it.
For the age of that film, it doesn't seem like it should look like that unless that was an intentional choice.
Well, it was. I don't know so much of an intentional choice, but I think it was a result of the film stock that they used.
Yeah, because I always wondered that. I remember when they first put out like the first issue of RoboCop on Blu-ray, it was the grainiest thing I've ever seen on any movie, let alone a Blu-ray, and then they put out that new one. So something like this.
One of the things that they'll do for older movies like that is they'll put that NDR on there, that or no, it's a DNR, digital noise reduction, and that will sharpen the image but make it look really unnatural. So they probably chose to leave that off for this, for what you got.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, and it's 1080p. It's not an extreme resolution, and it's on a big TV. It's a 65-inch TV, so it did look a little fuzzy. I was just surprised about that.
I felt the same way when I first got it. It wasn't as big of. It didn't look bad, but it didn't blow me away. Kind of like Jaws or Taxi Driver. Those Blu-ray upgrades were like big difference. But nonetheless, still probably one of the best movies ever made.
Oh yeah, and the commentary is excellent on all of those films.
Those
really
good commentaries are worth listening to.
Yeah.
I watched a movie recently that I'd always heard stories about, but wasn't the easiest movie to get a hold of until they put it out on Blu-ray recently. I don't think it was even out on DVD, but it's a William Friedkin film called Sorcerer, and man, you guys have got to see this movie. Okay, he made it after The Exorcist, and it's got Roy Schneider in it, and it's these 4 guys have to flee their country because they did something happened, and they got to leave the country, and they all wind up in this like South American town working for like an oil company, and the oil company has an explosion, and they need to transport this what is it called?
Nitroglycerin.
Nitroglycerin, yeah. They need to transport the nitroglycerin, but it hasn't been stored properly. So if you bump the nitroglycerin too hard, it will explode. They have to drive these trucks like 200 miles across the jungle with this nitroglycerin in the back and try not to blow themselves up. And it is like one of the most tense movies ever. It's got, at the beginning, it's got a scene in Israel where there's an explosion that is like Friday 7 worthy. Then they show the oil place explode, and it like shakes the camera. It's so heavy. There's about 4 explosions in this movie that are just like, he blew the shit out of everything he could get his hands on. But basically the score's Tangerine Dream.
Oh, wow.
So it's amazing. Great music, great score. And the film came out, and I believe Star Wars came out the next week and pretty much buried it. And it was a co-production between, I think, Universal and Paramount. Friedkin couldn't figure out who owned the film. It was, people arguing about it for years and years, and finally Warner Brothers released this Blu-ray. And it's a digibook release, but I was real disappointed, no special features. So I had to get on YouTube and listen. Friedkin was talking about it at some festivals, but no commentary, no nothing. And it's definitely a movie where you're like, I want to know about the making of this movie because it's all shot down on location. They built this bridge to drive that truck across over like this raging river. It's the most tense movie. It's so good. I recommend everybody check it out.
What's it called again?
Sorcerer.
Sorcerer.
Yes, the name of one of the trucks is Sorcerer. So it's actually a remake of a 1952 French film that has the same story about the nitroglycerin, but he adds in his own elements to the film. But yeah, definitely check that one out. I think next up, our last topic today, we're going to talk about the next festival that we want to do and try to make a decision because I'd like to plan that pretty soon, probably within a month or so. So Dustin, you better prepare your schedule to be here.
Make sure it's before either November 14th or after Thanksgiving, because I will be gone out of town during that time. But yeah,
it's happening on November 18th.
Anthony Bourdain is traveling.
Yeah, Anthony Bourdain's got some places to be.
I already have an idea for a potential one that could be very... It could be torturous as well as... it could be a little different way we do this one a little bit.
Okay.
What if... And I don't know the exact date of the release of the next one. What if we did a Fast and the Furious one, and then the last one is going to the theater for the new movie?
That's a really good idea, though. I don't like those movies, but that's a great idea to cap it off by going to the theater.
I've seen enough of them to know that they're so different, and there's some that would be so painful.
How many is there? How many are there?
Well, 7. The new one will be 7. The new one will be 7. The new one will be 7.
Well,
it's a good. When does it come out?
I'm pretty sure by the end of the year, I want to say, doesn't it? Or if not, even if we don't do that one as the next one, it's definitely one we want to consider.
We need to do. Oh,
yeah.
That
I don't want to do.
I know, but that's why it's good.
That sounds painful to me, and I'd like to think I'm the biggest car fanatic here.
Yeah.
Maybe Brandon and I. But I'm a huge car nut, and I've only seen part of the first Fast and Furious and was forced by some other car friends to watch the third because, hey man, the other two were shitty, but this is a good one. This is legitimate.
You're gonna love it.
I fell asleep. It was awful.
Tokyo Drift.
I think Sonny Chiba was in it.
Really?
Yeah, I think he had a little bit
at
part
the time
in it.
because of Kill Bill and everything.
That's the only thing that held my interest was waiting on Sonny Chiba's part.
He punched
Wish he would have
might
ripped
not even
someone's
have been
nuts
part of it.
off like he did in Street Fighter.
I wish he would have skull punched somebody while they were doing the final drift.
Skull punched Vin Diesel.
having
No, he's
seen
already
them
been
all-
skull punched prior to him beginning his acting career.
Having seen them all, though, I will say that if it was painful, it will be painful from a long perspective.
It will be so painful.
But it will be mostly painful for what he's talking about at the very beginning. Because I will say, once they got to bringing on The Rock and everyone else in, at least it's tolerable. It's not...
When did The Rock join the crew?
I think like 5, I want to say. Something like that.
See,
From 5 on, it was actually... I mean, compared to the first few...
From 5 on, they're one of the best movies I've ever seen. They're so amazing. Cinematography.
Now, how many have you seen of the Fast and Furious? Dan, none?
Me, 0.
Oh, this would be
Brandon?
perfect.
None.
Oh, this would be
And
perfect.
you, how many?
All of them. I've seen them all. I've seen them all. Because of Eric.
How many do you
Do
own?
they have a show truck spinoff?
No, but they need one. They need one. But no, I really feel like it would be the best. I think it'd be a good one. And plus, the new one's coming out. It made me think of it because they announced another Saw movie, and I know that one.
Well,
needs to
that's
happen
what I
too.
wanted to bring up because I've got I've got some Amazon gift cards, and I was thinking about possibly purchasing something. Now, I wanted to bring this up that I think you should buy the Saw set for me. It's $20.
All right, you're buying my ticket if we come with a new one next year. If we do it,
Yeah.
Okay.
If you get the Saw box set, since I've provided, except
All the
for Police
others.
Academy and Star Trek, you get the Saw set. I will match your purchase by purchasing the Leprechaun set.
Okay, I'll do that.
Every Leprechaun film on Blu-ray including the new one produced by WWE Films.
What?
Yes.
Oh
Starring
Is John Cena the leprechaun?
Hornswoggle is. He's the leprechaun, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 in space, 5 in the hood, 6 back in the hood, and the new one it would be 7.
4 is in space?
Yes.
Did they beat Jason to space?
No.
Yes.
Or did they? Oh, they did.
Well, the Jason X came out in like 2001 or 2002, but it had been sitting on the shelf for like 3 years because of the effects. And so maybe it did. I don't know. Well, I know Hellraiser went to space, and I know
Why?
Leprechaun.
Well, that
Sounds like Freddy needs to...
tear your spaceship apart. But okay, let me name the ones I've got.
Okay.
I like all 3 of the... every idea seems... they all sound torturous,
Yeah.
but I like Hellraiser. Since
I've
you just
got
brought
one
up.
that I showed Dustin the other day, and it's a little bit breaking the rules, but it's kind of nostalgic because we would be going back to Full Moon. I've got a set that has all 3 Ginger Dead Man movies. It's got Demonic Toys 2, and Doll Man versus Demonic Toys, and then it's got 3 movies, the Killjoy movies with the clown. So
Is he the clown in like the ghetto? Is
I
Killjoy
don't think
like
we
the
could do
ghetto
all of them.
clown?
Dude, no,
I don't think he's
we
a
need
ghetto
to not
clown.
only do all of we need to do that and the one versus the evil bong.
Oh yeah, we could do that. Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong.
I didn't know about it either.
There's an Evil Bong series. I believe there's 3 films in it.
Green lights this.
Charles Band. These are all Charles Band movies. So
Is Gary Busey involved in
the first Ginger Dead Man,
That's the
I
only
think.
one?
I
I was
don't
so
think he's in-
disappointed because he's only in the
Did he even
movie
do
for like
voice?
2
Does he even
minutes.
do the voice in the second one or anything?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think he did the voice in the first one. Really, I don't
He
know.
showed up a few
Hey man, I
scenes.
tell you, they used too much sugar in me.
Prince Henry Stout.
Yeah.
No, the second one is called Ginger Dead Man 2: The Passion of the Crust. Mm-hmm. So
I want to see it for that reason. If the title's the best part of a movie, that's not a good.
no, so we've got that one. We've got Children of the Corn. I've got all those. Hellraiser. Halloween. Ernest.
How many Ernest movies are there?
Okay,
I've seen most of those. though.
Ernest Goes to Camp. Ernest Saves Christmas. Ernest Goes to Jail. Ernest Scares Stupid. Ernest Rides Again. Slam Dunk Ernest.
It's all in theaters.
Ernest Goes to School. Ernest Goes in the Army. And
See.
Ernest Goes to Africa. So I believe there's 9.
God.
Wow.
Unless I'm missing one.
Ernest gets throat cancer.
You know that Jim Varney was like a Shakespearean actor.
Well, yes. I mean, people often say that, and, okay. See you
exactly.
there. But
Shakespeare in the Park.
I'll tell you, when I was in high school, one of the assignments we had in the acting class was to bring in and do a presentation on your favorite actor. And I had some options, but I didn't want to pay to rent a movie. So I could only choose from what I owned, and really all I owned were horror movies, Jackie Chan martial art films, and Ernest movies. So I took Ernest movies in, and my teacher was so mad that I chose Jim Varney as like my favorite actor. He was like,
Who was it?
Mr. Salter.
Oh, he was
He was,
mad.
he was real mad. Yeah, he thought I didn't take the assignment seriously.
Oh boy.
Oh, sorry, I didn't bring in Raging Bull.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got the Smokey and the Bandit set. That's got 7 of those on there, and
Is six seems. I mean, depends on runtime. Do we have? Just to help with people who want to make recommendations, do we have a runtime rather
not
than
really
like
a runtime.
number of films in the series limitation?
well, 7
Do we have a
hour and a
runtime?
half segments. What does that come out at? A runtime. That would be
10 and a half.
10 and a half. So 10 and a half probably.
So 10. Let's say what? 10 hours.
10 hours. Yeah.
Minimum runtime.
Oh, and we could definitely do mini
One
festivals.
that would be a piece of cake, but wouldn't meet the cutoff if we did the Death Wish movie.
Well,
But
that's
there's
what I
only
was just going to say. We
5,
could do
and
mini
that's
festivals. 'Cause
super
we could
easy.
do Death Wish. We could do Phantasm. We could do, a bunch of series that didn't. There's a lot of full moon series. Trancers.
Think about Godzilla. Think about Godzilla.
James Bond. Let's do James Bond and Godzilla.
Can't do it.
There are
You
certain
can't do
ones
it.
you can take parts in them. Like there's
You
different
could
ways in
do
which
just
you
you
could
could do the Showa series.
You could do Roger Moore James Bonds.
Yeah, we could do that.
Those are the
I
worst.
think you need to think about how long they are, though.
Oh yeah,
they're long.
That would be like a 14-hour festival.
6 or 7.
7, I think.
Oh,
I don't like any of those.
Or you could do
that.
that.
Thanks. I like that one.
The
only one I like is the Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah,
I like Live and Let Die.
And
I like the couch shot.
And I like that. The couch shot is good, and I like that Sergeant J.W. Pepper
I
that chases
hate
him
him.
around everywhere.
I
Yep.
hate.
He's like a
those two.
broke ass Buford T. Justice.
Exactly. That's exactly
Get
what
him,
it is.
get
And I
him.
hate those two of them. To me, they don't get good till the Spy Who Loved Me, and the other one
Who
I
did
like.
it? Sheena Easton? No, wait. Who did
no,
the...
Barbara Bach.
Yeah.
Oh, the song I believe was she.
No. That's
No,
For
she
Your Eyes
did
Only.
For Your Eyes Only, which is the other one I like.
Yeah,
I like that one. I don't like any of the other ones. But nonetheless,
of the Roger Moores.
uh,
You're telling me
Yes.
you like Moonraker, stupid motherfucker.
Well, I think we should stick to horror. I mean, there's a lot of good mini options out there. I mean, we could do Alien. I mean, you could do Alien versus Predator, and go into the
Yeah.
Predator films. But
Have you seen those? The Alien versus Predator.
Oh, man.
bad.
Have you seen
movies.
the second one?
Bad.
I never saw the second one. Is it really worse than the first one?
it's impossible.
So
So bad. Think about if they took like an American Pie movie, or like that level of like teen movie,
Yeah, yeah.
and then threw Aliens and Predators in the middle of a city.
Sounds good to me. Well, I think that we need to do one that's hard
Yeah,
because
especially
that
because
is
I've only
honestly-
experienced an easy one.
That's honestly why I thought of the Fast and the Furious ones for you
that
guys.
would be hard.
That
Well,
would be
what
very
we need
hard.
is I need a little. There may be some other franchises out there I'm not thinking about because my mind does tend to stick mainly in the horror genre. But yeah, any recommendations? But let's try to make a decision. I mean, Jonathan's not here. I've asked him if he would like to be a part of the next festival, and he said he would. But maybe what do we want to do?
Is it going to be?
it's got
at
to be
my house
Hellraiser
again?
or Halloween.
Hellraiser, Halloween? Brandon saying, okay. Adam, what do you think?
Is it going to be at my house again?
Yeah, probably.
That helps. No. Honestly, I mean, depending on when we do it, but yeah, Halloween was the next one I think we would do, but I don't think that one will be hard at all.
I don't think it'll be that hard, and I think we need to push
unless
it
we
back.
watch the fucking remakes.
No, those will not be watched. But we could push it. We could push it back until next year, and I could edit those around Halloween time of year. Maybe we should do. Well, here's one. The Silent Night, Deadly Night series. I believe there's 6 of those.
Honestly,
Little holiday.
I don't
horror.
know why, but I have a feeling that Hellraiser would be perfect.
Yeah, I've
because-
only
thinking
seen the
Hellraiser.
first
I
one.
know,
of
and I
those.
heard
I'm
that
thinking,
some
they
of
get-
the
after
straight
part
to
3, they're all
video-
straight to video.
Yeah, exactly. Like
One of them I know was made as a non-Hellraiser film, and they went back and just added Hellraiser material into the film. It was not made as a Hellraiser movie.
What are they called? The Cenobites? Or
Cinnabites.
Cinnabites?
Cinnamon bites.
Cinnamon buns bites. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. We're gonna vote on this.
Yeah.
Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Is that what we want?
Yep.
Hellraiser.
Yep.
Well, they're all on DVD.
Do you already own them?
Yes.
You have all of them
Yes.
piecemeal together, right?
Yes, but they're in like a big pack, so they're probably really shitty.
Can
looking.
I ask this?
Yes.
Would it be too sudden if we did it sometime, not this week, but next week? My
probably.
parents will be out of town that next week, and I could just come down here. I mean,
We could look into it.
Next couple weeks.
Lenny would probably do acupuncture on my face like Pinhead if I told her I needed to do that next week.
She would really care if you're gone one day.
One day.
Yeah, she probably would on such short notice.
Well, what if you have to go on a short notice race trip?
Yep.
She would have trouble with that too.
What what's everybody doing around Halloween? I'm planning on taking off work Halloween.
Right, but that's going to be...
Which is a Friday.
I doubt we're going to be able to do a festival then because there's so much other stuff going on.
Not if we did it that Friday, but if we did it the Saturday after Halloween. I don't know.
Well, let me just say that
Okay.
if y'all do decide, I can come down anytime during not this coming week, but the week after that, from weekend
That's-
to week.
Well, I
Probably
can tell
gonna
you
be
it will not be during the week ever.
Yeah,
It will only be on a Saturday.
right. So I don't know. I mean,
Well, we'll figure it out. But nonetheless, let's go with Hellraiser as our next choice. And we'll figure out a date to make it work. In the meantime, we'll, through the month of October, we'll be uploading the 31 Days of Horror videos that are putting together. Me and Dustin shot the first one a few days ago. Some technical issues. It got up today, but we'll get the rest of those coming through the month of October. And yeah, maybe you guys could produce some videos, at some point. Just let me know if there's something y'all want to do. But we appreciate everybody joining us for the very first Can You Take It podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed us just sitting around shooting the shit for a little while. Hopefully we'll be able to put these together every couple of weeks. And you can leave us comments and feedback. And, if you like them, just let us know.
cool.
So for Adam, Dustin, Brandon, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.